Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in for this presentation at the Southern Harm Reduction Conference. I really appreciate it. I know there's a lot of competing uh, webinars and things to watch and things to participate in. So thank you so much to everyone who joined us right now. Quick little housekeeping. I know this is recorded, so I can't respond to questions in real time, but if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at shannon@georgiaequality.org. Even if you are not a Georgia resident, I can definitely connect you to the person in your state. I have a pretty strong national network, and will do whatever I need to do to make sure that you are connected to the right person in your state. And I'm happy to answer any question, doesn't matter how small. So please feel free, and if the chat is open for this webinar, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat as well, and I will answer them there as well. So we're talking about voter registration today, and we are voting like our lives depend on it because, spoiler alert, it does, right? We are facing some pretty unprecedented times with a pandemic and with a lot of stigma and discrimination and prejudice, and our communities are not getting the support and the equality that they deserve or need. So it's really important to be engaging our communities on voter registration right now. But I recognize that there are so many competing priorities for our communities. We are also trying, worrying about housing, worrying about food insecurity, trying to get medical care. If you don't live in an expansion state like here in Georgia, we don't have Medicaid expansion. It's really hard to get the care that we need. It's really hard to get income right now. It is, more hard than ever to get a fix, and transportation and methadone access and all of these things were hard before the pandemic hit us. And now, we're adding extra things to that. So I can understand, especially if you work for a syringe service program, if you are a programmatic provider, what more do you want from me? How do you expect me to add another thing to our plate? But here's the thing is, they are making it hard to vote on purpose. And that's really key. If they're making it hard to vote, it's because they don't want you to vote. And then you think, well, why, right? If somebody's trying to take something away from you, it's a pretty good indication that that thing is valuable, right? And so it's really, really important now more than ever to engage in the vote, because the fact that they are putting up so many barriers, like closing and changing precincts, postal service defunding, making you have a voter ID, purging people from the rolls, putting up registration deadlines, limiting the amount of drop boxes, all of these things that they're doing, they're to stop you from voting. And if they're trying so hard to stop you from voting, that tells me that it's pretty important that we vote, right? Yes, the presidential election is important. Nobody disputes that. But here's the thing. Our movement lives and dies at city councils and state legislatures. Whether someone has access to clean works depends on the police department, on the rules and regulations in your city council, on whether a syringe service program is legal in your state, right? And in those races, for those positions, city councils and state legislatures, those races are often decided by less than 100 votes, right? So even though it can feel like, listen, I live in a completely red state, or I live in a completely blue state, it does not matter my vote for president because the Electoral College decides it. I hear that. But when you're talking about city councils, the DA, the county sheriff, your state legislative representative, these offices are really the ones that determine if people in your state have healthcare access, have access to clean and safe works, have access to harm reduction programs, really determined by that. So it's really, really important that we are engaging in those elections. And at the end of the day, things get done for those who show up, right? If the daughter of American Revolution or whoever the heck is getting all of their bills passed, one of the reasons is because they show up, because they are a unified voting bloc, because they're going down to the Capitol, because they're making their voices heard, right? And so we have to do the same thing. We have to show up. We have to present ourselves as a voting bloc. We represent votes. You are our representatives, and we are your constituents, and you answer to us, right? So it's really, really important, those razor thin margins when it comes to city council, state legislature, DA's office, sheriff's office. All of those races are usually very, very tight, and it is worth it for you to make sure that your clients and your community is registered to vote and getting to the ballot. So we level set. Even though you got so much on your plate, voter registration is still an important piece of the puzzle in getting access and services for people who use injection drugs and use drugs. So we've determined that. Now, how do we do it? I want you all to take a moment, pause, get out your phone, take a picture of this page. I tried to crowdsource for all the southern states. I'm missing Arkansas and Virginia. I do apologize for that, but I tried to get all the other southern states on this slide. This is people that I've reached out to through my network that have been identified as people doing the work, doing voter registration work in your state. If you do not live in the South, if I know we have people from all over the country attending this workshop, look it up, find it, just do voter registration in your state. Find whoever is doing voter registration in your state. Don't try to do this work alone. It can be a lot to handle. There's a lot of rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. Any one of these people, if you email them and say, hey, I would like help registering my community to vote, they are going to be so excited that you reached out to them. They're going to jump at the chance because they've been trying to get into the communities that we serve, right? They want to be, helping people that are experiencing housing insecurity. They want to be working with marginalized group that typically don't have access to the ballot. That's why these jobs exist. That's why these people exist, is to get access and support those people. And so please reach out. Don't do this all on your own. You don't have to. They will help you. They will set it up. They will streamline it for you and tell you everything that you need to know to be legally compliant for voter registration. All right, so like I said, take a picture, jot down your person for your state, find somebody that's doing voter registration so that you don't have to, do it on your own. Once you found somebody that can support your voter registration work, it's really important that you know the rules. So typically in every state, you need to be 18 years old, you need to be a US citizen, you need to be a resident of where you're trying to register to vote, you need to be not found mentally incompetent by a judge. So a judge has to declare you mentally incompetent if you are unable to vote, right? So that's only if a judge has declared you mentally incompetent. And you need to not currently be serving a felony. Now, I will disclaim that little asterisk there, that felony rules vary widely by state. So make sure that you research the regulations for your areas. For example, here in Georgia, you can register to vote if you are what's called off paper. So if you've done your time, paid your fine, and you're off probation and parole, you're off paper, then you are eligible to register to vote again. Whereas in Florida, they tried to pass a law. The voters said, yeah, we want people who have completed their felonies, they want them to be able to vote. And the legislature tried to subvert that vote. And so now it's in the courts and there's a lot of confusion going on in Florida about whether somebody with a felony conviction is allowed to vote. So make sure that you are researching the rules for your state, because more so than anything, the rules around voting with if you've been convicted with a felony change a lot. But I will say that almost all for all states, it's only around felonies. So if you have a misdemeanor, you're okay. If you have been charged with a felony but not convicted, you are also okay, right? So definitely make sure that you are communicating with that list, that I had, that you took a picture of, and finding out the specific rules for your state. Because if you do live in a state where people who have felony convictions can vote once they have paid their debt to the state, then it's really important that we are engaging those people and getting them to be able to vote and advocate for decarceration, right? All right, so paper versus online, things are, typically I would say paper is best because it's easy to track, but we live in extraordinary times with COVID. Really, at the end of the day, pick whatever works for you. Paper or online, as long as they get registered, it's fine. So coming to the pros of paper, it doesn't require any technology. It doesn't require any internet. It does give you time to get an ID. So like here in Georgia, if you are online, you can only register to vote online if you have a driver's license or a state ID already. And so what's great about paper is that somebody can register with the last 4 of their social security number and then work on getting their ID for election day. So that's a really nice thing that paper affords you. It kind of gives you more time to get your ID in order. It also helps outside organizations, partner organizations can help track your registration and make sure that it went through and call you and remind you to vote on election day. And so that's kind of the benefits of paper. If you're going online, the nice thing about that is the individual can track, right? Like the individual has gone through online, can know how to get in and do it and double check that their voter registration went through. It does require an ID. However, it also protects from mail failure right now. So we're dealing with a lot of attacks on the US Postal Service, and God bless the postal workers because they are doing their best. But there's a lot of challenges right now around that. So if you're not feeling confident in the mail system, then online is the best way to go. All right, so I'm just going to go through kind of what those 2 processes look like. I am going to use Georgia as an example, but it's incredibly similar in every other state. Every state is a little bit different, right? They all have their individual ways of doing it, but the big broad principles of like name, date of birth, address are going to be the same. So hopefully it is instructive for people, even if you don't live in Georgia. So this is what the paper form looks like in Georgia. You start with your name. It's really important that your name matches what's on your ID. This is really important for people that come from more marginalized communities. For example, if you come from a racial or ethnic background which has a lot of last names, it's not just like the first, middle, and last, like Anglo-American names are. So if you're not coming from that tradition, you have multiple last names, you want to put the last name that is on your driver's license, right? Or on your state ID. So it's really, really important. Or if they misspell it, that happens a lot. If it's misspelled on your ID, misspell it on your application because you want it to match the ID that you're going to be voting with, right? Here in Georgia, make sure you flag for people that you start with your last name. I can't tell you the number of times people have ruined a form because they start with their first name because it's normal. My name is first, last. So make sure you're starting with your last name. With your address can be like wherever you lay your head at night, right? So if that's, at the intersection, like if you're sleeping on the street and you're, live under an overpass or just sleeping under an overpass right now, that's fine. You can put that in Georgia. You can put a cross section as your residence, right? That's one of the very few liberal parts of our election law. You can put just a cross street where you're staying. But if you do that, it's really, really important that you put in a mailing address because they're going to mail you your precinct card. So it's really important that if you do have a residence address that isn't like a typical address that you can receive mail in, or like maybe you're staying at a shelter or something like that, make sure that you put your mailing address. For the county, I just want to flag that it's county, not country. So many people see this and they see country, not county. So just flagging that is county. And then the other thing that people typically forget to put down is their zip code, because there's that nice big black GA right in the middle that kind of stops your eye from moving. So most often people forget county and they forget zip code. So make sure that you are double checking that you put the county and the zip code on there. And then like I said, with the mailing address, you only need to put a mailing address if it's different from where you're staying, right? So if you are staying at a shelter but you get mail at church or at your service program, it's really, really important that you put a mailing address, a valid mailing address. You cannot put a PO box for your residence, right? But so it's like, say you kind of couch surf a little bit and stay in a few different places, but you have a really stable PO box that you always keep current. Put the PO box in your mailing address. PO box cannot go in your residence address. Your residence address has to be actually where you're sleeping at night, okay? And then your PO box, or if you have a church or a shelter or a certain service program that gets mail for you, that's where you can put the mailing address. We always encourage people to put in their telephone number, because the telephone number allows us to follow up. If there's a problem with the card, nobody can call you and say there's a problem with this card, right? So it's really, really important to put down a phone number if you have one. And then make sure you're doing your date of birth. People typically forget or mess that up. So make sure it's clear and legible, that their full date of birth. For gender nonconforming folk and trans folk, you're going to want to put the gender that is on your ID, right? And I know that the gender that's on our IDs is not always accurate, and that can be really tough for people. But at the end of the day, they're going to be checking what's on your ID. So make sure that you put the gender that's on your ID that you're going to be voting with. We also really encourage people to include race and ethnicity. The reason that we include race and ethnicity is because there are advocacy organizations that track like things like purging from the rolls, or not having enough polling locations, ballots, all that kind of stuff. They prove that it is racially motivated, or at least racially impactful, by being able to track the race that is, or ethnicity that's put on the card. And so that's how we are able to prove that, like, if 80% of the people that are purged from the voting roll are people of color, are coming from minority races or ethnicities here in America, then we can show that that's unconstitutional, that's illegal, right? So we really encourage people to put down their race and ethnicity, because then it allows advocacy orgs to demonstrate this is a racially motivated purging, and you can't do that, and get the rules changed and the laws changed and the action thrown out, right? For line 5, you need either a driver's license or your social security number. We like both, because the more information we have, the more likely the registration will go through, but you only need one or the other. And definitely want to flag that you only need the last 4 of your social. We do not want or need all 4 or all the full social security number. We just want the last 4 of that. If you're registering with your social security card, only put the last 4 down. Then the most important thing that people typically forget is these 2 little boxes that say that you're a citizen of the United States and that you're old enough to vote. This is so, so important, because if somebody forgets to put, let's say they forget to put county up at the top, then a friendly election registrar can say, like, that's okay, I know that Atlanta is in Fulton County. Well, actually, you wouldn't know that Atlanta is in Fulton County, because we straddle 2 counties, because Georgia's great like that. But let's say they live in a town or a city that it's like, I know that that's in this county. They can go ahead and complete that registration at the registrar's office. There's no option. They can't be nice when it comes to these 2 boxes. They have to have those boxes checked. You have to swear and affirm that you are a citizen. You have to swear and affirm that you are old enough to vote. So that's so common that I see people that are forgetting to check those boxes. Those are the 2 most important boxes on this entire form. So make sure that you're checking those boxes. Can't stress that enough. Then you'll sign and date. Really important to remember to date. I have seen, like, for my job, I have personally reviewed over 5,000 voter registration cards. So everything that I flagged tonight is specific to the things that I see that are most common. And the most common thing that you see is that they forget to check the boxes, and then they forget to put the date. So make sure you're dating and signing. And then if you helped somebody, if you work for like a program and you help somebody register to vote, let's say they have the shakes, or they have bad eyesight and they can't read the form easily, they can't write easily, and you help them fill it out, that's fine. You just have to say that you helped them. You have to sign saying, I assisted this person. It's like when your tax preparer, prepares your taxes, and they have to say that they helped you prepare the taxes, right? So really, really important that if you help anybody register to vote by writing on the form, if you wrote on the form, hey, I helped this person, it's really important that you sign. And make sure that they are the ones that are signing. So if somebody has the shakes and they can't write and you fill out the form with them, they still have to be the one signing. You cannot sign for somebody else. That's super illegal. So no matter the condition of the person that is that is registering to vote, they have to, even if they can only put as X, like if they have low literacy, that's fine, but they have to put like an X or something, some kind of mark. You cannot sign for them. And then make sure that you're signing as the assister. All right, that's paper forms. Now we're gonna go to online. First thing with online voting, most states that if you have online voting registration, it's really important that you confirm that you have the proper ID. In Georgia, you have to have a driver's license or a Georgia state ID, like a voting ID card. That's really, really important. You can't register online without that. If you need help getting an ID, I highly recommend spreadthevote.org. These are the states that are currently active in. They're always trying to add more states, but they're really great. The whole reason they exist is to just help people get voter ID cards for voting day. That's the whole reason they exist, and they have chapters in the highlighted states. So I know a lot of syringe service programs have experts, social workers that are expert on getting IDs, but if you need a little extra help getting an ID, this is a great organization. So if you're doing voter registration online, for example, here in Georgia, if you are unsure or you are already registered to vote and you need to update your address or something like that, you want to start with the My Voter page login. So this is where it's like, if you're like, I might be registered, I don't know, I can't remember, you put this information in and they'll either say like, yep, we have you, or no, we don't have you in here, you need to update your address, or you need to register again, right? So if you are unsure at all, if you think you might be registered to vote, start with the login, see if the login is successful, and then if it's not, then go ahead and register to vote. One note about the login, when you are doing the date of birth, make sure you click on the calendar. The date of birth won't really let you like type it in, so you got to click on the calendar and start with the year. Make sure you're starting with the year. If you don't start with the year, it's not going to work. So click on the calendar, start with the year for date of birth. And once you get in, this is what it's going to look like. So this is my My Voter page. So really great. It has your address, where you're registered to vote, all of your information. It allows me to change my address, change voter information if I need to. It has sample ballots for upcoming elections. It has direction. It has my polling place right there, and then has early voting locations and times, because often early voting is different from your regular polling place. So it has those. You can also request an absentee application there, and you can track your absentee. So like that gray link down at the bottom left, it says click here for absentee ballot application. And then if I were to submit an application, then the gray link underneath it would be highlighted so that I can check and see, oh, it was received, oh, my ballot was sent out, or whatever. So great page, www.mvp.sos.ga.gov if you want to go online. If you are not registered to vote, then you can click on register down there at the bottom, and you're going to want to make sure that you say, I want to register to vote. So the am I registered to vote will just take you back to the main page. So you want to make sure that you're clicking on I want to register to vote. And then you're going to register to vote online using valid GA, driver's license, or ID number. Now, you can, to the right there, register to vote by printing and mailing the application. You can totally do that if you have access to a printer, but most of us these days don't have access to printers. So you just go ahead and click on the one on the left. You have to affirm all those things that we talked about. You have to be a citizen. You have to be residing where you are trying to register. You have to be old enough. You have to not be serving a felony, and you have to be found, you cannot have been found mentally incompetent, right? Then you keep filling in the information. Like I said, similarly to the main page, if you have your date of birth, make sure you're clicking on the calendar and starting with the year. That's really important. Start with the year, otherwise it won't work. You have to consent that they will let you use your driver's license signature or your ID signature for your signature. One thing that I want to flag, then you put in your address. Like I said, all the same rules of the paper, right? Residence is where you're laying your head at night. Mailing is like if you can't receive mail where you lay your head at night, then go ahead and put in a mailing address, a PO box or something, or a church or syringe service program. If you have your street name, something I want to flag for that, you only want to type the first, this is specific to Georgia, this is a little Georgia thing, only type the first two letters and then select from the drop down. So like I live on Glenwood Ave, and I tried to type out all Glenwood and it was a mess. So just type in the first two letters, GL, and then a drop down menu will have like your like I was able to select Glenwood from the drop-down numbers menu. So you have the street number on one side, then the street name, then the apartment, right? They separate each part out for your street address. And then you put in, you know, your last four of your social, your driver's license number, all that kind of stuff, ways for them to get in contact with you. And then it gives you a chance to review everything, make sure everything is right. Like I said, you have to swear and affirm that you're a citizen and that you're old enough to vote. And then you can press submit, right? It's really not hard. It takes like maybe 5 minutes. So it's great. If you can do online voter registration or help your clients do online registration, if they have a state ID, it's really ideal in these crazy times that we live in. So that's kind of a broad overview. And like I said, please feel free to email me any questions that you have. So now we're going on to promotion, right? You can't just like offer voter registration once and have like your entire community registered, right? You just have to be promoting at all times, really pushing it. Like I said, people have to be asked to register to vote like 3 or 4 times before they'll actually do it. So we at Georgia Equality, we have palm cards and flyers. We use QR codes and bit.ly links that we share online and on paper. We do social media posts, we do Facebook ads, and you can even, there's some of our partners that do radio ads down in like South Central Georgia, they do radio ads. So really make sure that you're hitting it from all different angles. You're using a lot of different ways to promote that you know, are trying to get people registered to vote. So one example of what we do is, this is one of the flyers that we hand out. We just put them on doors right now because of COVID. And so we have a bit.ly link that people can pull up, or the QR code. And that leads to this page where we track. All this page does is it says, all right, give us your information so we can remind you to vote. And then it sends you to the My Voter page. It sends you to the government, so Secretary of State website. But what's really great about sending them to this page first is that then we can follow up and track that, hey, this person tried to register to vote through our page, so we can double check, did they make it on the rolls? Do they need help? We can follow up with them. So that's a really great program that we run. We also offer absentee requests. So people need help. If you don't have a printer, it can be really hard to request an absentee application. So we just set this up. This is like a Google form that I set up in like 20 minutes. Put together a Google form, and then it dumps out to here to a spreadsheet just through my Gmail account. And then I have all these requests that I can very easily put into a mail merge and make into, you know, the same way that you do like your donor thank you cards or your, you know, holiday newsletter or whatever. You make a mail merge, and it's a great activity for a volunteer to like sit and address the envelopes. You can print out address labels, so they just peel and stick the address and stuff the envelope and mail the absentee application to the person that requested it. And this is a great list building tool. So we share this form far and wide through these flyers, and already 1,100 people have requested absentee applications through us. And now we have their information, and we can follow up with them with get out the vote work, with action work, you know, if, you know, we're trying to get them to advocate, call their representative, whatever, that kind of work. We also think like online promotion is really, really important. So like these are graphics that we made for get out the vote stuff for our primary. And you can do this on free software, www.canva.com, free software. You can make these really nice, put together a graphic and that is representative of your community that you serve, and share that online. They have great templates where it's like all the settings are set for Facebook, like all of the sizing and everything is like, here's the Facebook template, here's the Twitter template, whatever. So it's a really great free software that you can use and just put it on your social media. So those are kind of some of the few ideas that we have that we do with our voter registration work. I really do want to highlight partner, partner, partner. You do not have to do this work alone. I promise you there's somebody in your state that is doing this work and would love to partner with you, right? Some parting recommendations. Like I said, have promotional materials at your office. Just hit them over and over again. Hey, do you want to register to vote? Hey, do you want to register to vote? Offer voter registration and vote by mail at outreach events. You do not have to create a voter registration event. Just have it for your programming that you already do. If you're doing a pancake breakfast, or you're doing, you know, a syringe exchange day or whatever, the outreach events that you already do, just also offer voter registration at the same time. If possible, complete when online. Have your clients and your community doing it online if they can, just because of the challenges with the mail system right now. If you have to do paper, make sure you're completing the forms with the client. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to mess the form up. And so anytime I'm doing voter registration, I am going through it line by line with people. Even, doesn't matter. I don't care if they have a PhD. I don't care if they're wearing a white lab coat and they come up to me. I still sit and go line by line with every person that I help register to vote, because it really is that easy to mess up the form. So make sure you're filling out the form with the client. Make sure you're mailing the form with the client. I never send a form with somebody. I always make sure that they mail it in my presence, or they give me authorization to deliver it for them. And in Georgia, you do need to have authorization. You can't just take the form from somebody. They have to sign saying that, that it is okay for you to deliver their form for them. So make sure that you're actually following through and making sure that form actually makes it to the mail. For absentee requests, make sure that you are requesting those ballots early. Same thing with the issues around the mail system, and then also with the county registrars. The County Board of Elections are not prepared for the number of people that want absentee applications, and absentee ballots. And so it's really, really important to request those ballots as early as possible, really truly, like now. Request those ballots now, as soon as possible, to give the county election boards and the mail service as much time as possible to get you your ballot. Help clients cast the ballots in person, right? So because of the issues with the mailing, have an absentee voting day party, right? Where it's like, if you have everybody bring their ballot to your office and everybody sit down and vote together and then stick it in the mail together. Or go ahead and, like, if you do transportation, drive everybody to the county registrar's office so that they can drop off their ballot in person, right? Make it like a party. Make sure you keep the ballot secret though. Encourage voting is secret. And so people shouldn't be sharing their ballots or being like, who are you voting for? This is who I voted for. It should be secret. Encourage them to keep it secret. But yeah, hold a voting party where they all bring their ballots together. Or if they have the ballots sent to your office as a service provider, hand out everybody's ballots, you all vote together, and then you all cast them together. Same with early voting, right? Early voting in Georgia starts on October 12th. Have an early voting day where it's like, we're all going to go to the polls together, right? Try and make it a community thing, and that will really help people go that last step to actually cast their vote. Lastly, important dates for Georgia, and this is National Voter Registration Day is September 22nd. So if you provide programming, September 22nd is a really great day to center around, center that programming on September 22nd. That's National Voter Registration Day. For Georgia, the registration deadline is October 5th. Like I said, you want to put in your absentee request ASAP. Early voting starts October 12th, and election day is November 3rd. So like I said, Shannon at Georgia Equality, if you have any questions, no question is too small. I'm happy to put you in touch with a person in your state that's doing this work, and really appreciate you all coming tonight. So thanks so much, and have a great rest of your conference.